The Buffalo Bills are in big trouble on Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens unless they do this. We're going to talk about that on today's edition of the Bills Breakdown by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith. But before we do, let's get into some Bills roster news that you need to know before Week 1 gets underway. The Bills placed DeWayne Carter, the defensive tackle, on injured reserve after he suffered that torn Achilles. He will miss the entire 2025 NFL season. Very, very unfortunate here, but he was slated to be behind rookie TJ Sanders on the defensive tackle depth chart. Now Sanders will have much more of a responsibility than originally promised. DB Sam Franklin was signed to the 53-man roster as DeWayne Carter opens up a spot on the Bills' active squad, and that's interesting that they didn't go with a defensive tackle replacement here. I was thinking they maybe go with a guy like Jordan Phillips to fill that void, but they decided to go in the defensive back room. There's probably a couple more question marks than answers. And then they signed kicker Matt Prater to the practice squad here, and I think this is the biggest thing to note. Out of all the Bills roster transactions, they also brought up and down like Jordan Poyer and Gabe Davis. They did a couple maneuverings to get those guys both in the practice squad as well. But the practice squad addition that I think means a lot for Buffalo here is bringing in Matt Prater, because Tyler Bass has legit injury concerns right now. Is he not playing on Sunday? Like, this is getting a little bit scary as he has been, limited in practice, not really doing much of anything all summer long as he's been recovering from injury. And now it's looking like the Bills want some insurance before Week 1. They ended up bringing in a couple of kickers, Eddie Pinheiro, Greg Joseph, and one other that I'm forgetting at this point right now as well. But they decided to bring in Matt Prater here, who was really, really good last season actually as well. Only played 4 games, had a meniscus injury, so that's shaky as well. But in 2023, he made the most 50-yard field goals of his career. He attempted the most 50-yard field goals of his career. So he was 9 for 12 in that department. He also hit from 62 at one point, which is the second longest of his career. Now, he is 41 at this point, but as far as veteran kickers that you could get in the first week of September, Matt Prater is really, really good, but I'm not going to be exactly happy if Tyler Bass is not ready to go and kicking at full strength on Sunday. If you guys are ready for Bills football to officially be back and you want to beat the Baltimore Ravens, go down below and show me, like today's video, and we're going to get into what the Bills need to do or else they'll be in big trouble. Let's discuss it. If the Buffalo Bills are in big trouble if they cannot cover the Ravens receivers, this is going to be an issue. The Ravens, they are known as a running team. We know this. The tandem of Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and obviously Lamar Jackson at quarterback is one of the most formidable rushing attacks, if not the most formidable rushing attack in the entire NFL and definitely the entire AFC. But what cannot be understated is their passing attack and the weapons that they have on the outside compared to who Buffalo is going to be lining up on the boundary and in the secondary come Sunday. You got Zay Flowers, who missed the AFC divisional game against Buffalo back in 2025, the early last year. And then Rashad Bateman, who I think is one of the more underrated receivers in this league on the boundary. I think he's in for a big year. And they also have DeAndre Hopkins as well. But if you look deeper down their depth chart, they have some serious depth at this position. Speedster Tylan Wallace, he'll be taking back kicks for them, along with LaJohntay Wester, who was a good kick returner in college for Colorado. But Wester and Tez Walker have been making big waves throughout the training camp and preseason. I bet you will see some certain packages with those guys out there on the field on Sunday, no doubt about it. But Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, they are absolute players, and so is DeAndre Hopkins. I know he's past his prime at this point, but he can still play, man, and especially when he's not being asked to be a wide receiver 1 or 2 like he was in Kansas City last year. He's kind of down the pecking order a little bit right now. And look, Zay Flowers, he's an emerging receiver in this league. Rashad Bateman, a true red zone threat for Baltimore there, as he had 9 touchdowns back in 2024. The Bills' secondary has it cut out for them this upcoming week, and it's not more so because the Ravens have this Hall of Fame level weapon group. That's really not what I'm saying here. It's just that I'm not too confident that the Bills' corners are going to be up to the challenge here. Yes, Taron Johnson, I think, could do a decent enough job on Zay Flowers, who I believe is going to be operating a lot out of the slot in this matchup. But you have Christian Benford, not at 100% at this point, working through a groin injury. He's limited at practice. I think on Thursday he was a full participant, but that at the time of recording, it's not 100% certain. Trey White not practicing on Thursday, and it doesn't look like he'll be ready to go for Week 1. So that means Dorian Strong and Jamarcus Ingram, you're moving up the depth chart here. The Bills also, like I said, brought in Sam Franklin at that safety spot, and there's no getting around the fact that Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop will have some assignments on these Baltimore weapons this upcoming Sunday, whether it be some of the receivers or a guy like Mark Andrews here that is looking for a vengeance after a crucial fumble in the AFC divisional game. But there are ways to limit the damage when it comes to, the Bills' cornerback room not being up to the challenge of the Ravens receiving core. There are ways to get past it, right? You can get to the quarterback. You can stop the run. And there are players on the Ravens offensive line who the Bills can kind of exploit here with their retooled defensive line. Daniel Falele, who, by the way, was also experiencing an illness earlier this week and was limited in practice and didn't practice on Wednesday. He's really bad. Like I was getting a joke, kind of some notes from Ravens rundown Joey Peterson. He was telling me that there aren't many gifts that the Ravens have given the Bills this upcoming week, but the fact that Daniel Falele is not a good player and is the starter at the right guard position for Baltimore is something that the Bills can absolutely exploit. So to make the lives of the corners and the safeties a little bit easier, let's go at Daniel Falele. Let's throw some stunts out there and get his mind working, and that'll only trickle down to the rest of the offensive line and help the Bills get to Lamar Jackson and the run game as well. Because the D-line, it has been revamped. You bring in Joey Bosa, who can help you tremendously, both as a pass rusher and against the run. You draft 3 defensive linemen here that you've made priority selections with in TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson, and Deone Walker. Greg Rousseau just got paid, and he is hungry to make the Bills feel like they got their money's worth of $20 million a season. And then Ed Oliver is going to continue doing his thing as well. Daquan Jones, I'm interested to see what he can do this upcoming week, but it's Deone Walker, I think is going to get some serious reps here in the first regular season game of his NFL career. And there's, in addition to just rushing 4 guys on a regular basis, the Bills are no strangers to throwing certain blitz packages out there, and specifically against the Baltimore Ravens. In the divisional, the Bills blitzed 50% of the time. And look, against a team that loves to run the football and has a really athletic quarterback, like it makes sense that you want to throw blitzes out there to limit his timing, limit his ability to escape the pocket, and limit whatever Buffalo can tries to get going in between the tackles running the football. But this could be a slippery slope, considering that there's one player that's very key to Buffalo's blitz pickups that did not play in the AFC divisional game, and that is Zay Flowers. Did you guys know that Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers are one of the best duos in the league when it comes to picking up the blitz? They had connected for 528 of Zay Flowers' 1,000 receiving yards last year. So literally half of Zay Flowers' production last year came off of Lamar Jackson getting him the ball when the defense was blitzing. That is the second most of any quarterback and wide receiver duo in the entire NFL. So definitely be cautious. I'm sure that 50% will probably be shaved off a little bit this upcoming week, because the Bills defense and their coaching staff should know that Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson are absolute threats when it comes to picking up the blitz and getting the ball out of his hands. Now, some injuries at cornerback we're going to continue to discuss here. Christian Benford and Trey White, they're dealing with groin injuries. White seems a little bit more serious here. He's also the older player. I am definitely worried. Like the Bills are going to be in big trouble if one of these 2 guys cannot play, because you're then just bringing in guys who really don't have as much NFL experience as you would want to have playing against Lamar Jackson, who threw for 48 touchdowns and whatever, how many 5 picks last year. Like it's ridiculous. Dorian Strong and Jamarcus Ingram are going to have to play, and there's a good chance that one of them is going to have to actually start alongside Christian Benford. Even if he's ready to go. If he's not, then both these guys are starting, and we're really in big trouble here. So it's not exactly something that I'm enthusiastic about, but it's a reality that Bills fans now have to face here. Dorian Strong or Jamarcus Ingram might be your starting boundary corner in week 1. Can't be worse than Dane Jackson, though, right? Joe Buscaglia said this, though. Bills defensive coordinator Bobby Babich on rookie Dorian Strong, who may need to start if Trey White can't go, says the improvement over the last 2 weeks has been incredible. So I'm pretty fired up about hearing that kind of stuff there. Strong was a 6th-round draft pick back in 2025 out of Virginia Tech, so I'm pumped. He's got some good run defense traits as well, and that could be paramount against a really, really good running Ravens team. Look, my whole take is this. If Buffalo can get solid output from their secondary in this upcoming game, it's only going to help the rest of the defense, because what do the Baltimore Ravens like to do? They like to open up their run game with their pass game. Usually it's the other way around in the NFL, right? You open up the pass by establishing the run. The Ravens do it the opposite way. So if the Buffalo receivers can just, or if the Buffalo corners, the Buffalo secondary can stick on to these Baltimore receivers and make Lamar Jackson have to wait an extra 1 second out there in the pocket, then, that's only going to help the rest of the pass rush. And then, it's only going to help the rest of the defense commit to the run a little bit more. We're going to need a big, big output out of Buffalo's secondary this upcoming week. It's going to decide a lot when it comes to the end result of this football game. Next up, we're going to show you guys 5 Bills players who I think we're going to shock the world this upcoming Sunday and potentially beyond as well. That just around the corner, but first, I got to tell you guys about our proud sponsor, and that, of course, is PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks because you guys and I make decisions every single day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. I love PrizePicks. I've been a customer longer than they've been a sponsor here at Chat Sports. I've won over $11,000 just by picking more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and winning real money in real time, watching all my favorite sports. Whether it's football, baseball playoffs around the corner, basketball's coming up as well. You can mix and match all these sports. You can put college football in there as well. And if you guys want to see a lineup for an example, Week 1, I got this. James Cook, more than half a rushing or receiving touchdown. Josh Allen, more than 31.5 rushing yards. And then Dak Prescott gave me a free square on Thursday, more than half a passing yard. Don't worry, it's expired now, but they will be giving you guys more deals just like this. Take advantage of their free squares. If all 3 of these picks hit, I make 6x my money. You can tell my picks or fade them. Just do it at PrizePicks. Download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Alrighty, the first player that's going to shock the world, and we've been talking about him a little bit, Deone Walker, baby. The Bills' preseason darling on the defensive side. We'll talk about the Bills' preseason darling on the offensive end in just a second, but Deone Walker is a stud, man. Affects the pass, affects the run. 6'7", 330 pounds. Are you kidding me? You just can't teach that kind of size, and that's why Buffalo was lucky that he fell all the way to the 4th round of this past NFL draft. I think he's going to be Buffalo's one tech of the future, and I'm not super high on Daquan Jones, not only in this opener, but for really much of the entire season. I think if Deone Walker gets a couple of 3rd down and short type of reps and makes a play, then that DT, the nose tackle 1 spot, will be his, and he's not going to let it up. So I'm looking out for Deone Walker when he's out there on the field this upcoming Sunday to make a couple of impact plays and help himself vault up that depth chart. Now the preseason darling on the offensive end, Tyrell Shavers. Look, I know the Bills have the everybody eats approach. I know they got Keon Coleman, I know they got Khalil Shakir, I know they got Josh Palmer, all that stuff. But Tyrell Shavers, if he gets the opportunity, he's going to make the most of it. Anytime the ball was thrown his way, he was making a play on the football. In the preseason, 6 grabs, $123, averaging 21 yards a grab, and had a touchdown, an unbelievable touchdown grab with one hand. Defense draped all over him as well. I don't even think he needs that much separation, honestly. He's got decent, good, really good size. He's 6'4", massive frame receiver out there. He can go high point the football. And look, if Josh can just put him in a position one-on-one down the sideline, I think you take the opportunity. And if he gets his hands on the football, he's coming down with it, because that's been the precedent so far with Shavers. Every time he's gotten the opportunity, he's made the most of it. And if he gets a couple of snaps against Baltimore, watch out. There could be a big play in his near future. Cole Bishop is a name that we're watching for, as well as we know the whole situation with Cole Bishop, right? He's been dealing with this injury throughout the training camp, but then eventually came back and played the preseason game against Chicago, looked absolutely atrocious, but then took another week of practice, getting back into game shape, and looked really, really a lot better in that preseason finale against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Had 2 PBUs last year, but didn't see a ton of time on the football field after being a second-round pick for Buffalo. Now he's being vaulted into that starting safety spot, and I think he's going to play with a lot of intensity out there. He was running like he had his head on fire in that preseason finale in the first couple of series against Tampa Bay. I think he's going to be hunting for the football, taking good angles, much better than he did in week 2 in the preseason against Chicago, and he's going to be looking like there's no chance that a guy like Damar Hamlin ends up taking his spot on the depth chart this upcoming season. Joey Bosa we're looking for as well to shock the world, and not because Joey Bosa, previously was a bad football player or anything like that, but I think that the world has maybe forgotten a little bit about Joey Bosa here. He played 14 games last year, but he was in and out. He wasn't really playing a ton of snaps. He was kind of banged up for most of it and wasn't all that productive. But in the season before that, he's playing single-digit football games. Now he's 30 years old. The Bills are going to put him in a little bit of bubble wrap as the season goes on. They're going to not see him for out there on 70% of the defensive snaps, but you're going to see him a good bit. And I think that there's going to be a different vibe and a different look overall from this Bills defensive line, and a big reason is going to be Joey Bosa here. I think Roger Rosengarten is okay at that right tackle spot coming into his second year for Baltimore, but he's still very inexperienced, and a veteran like Joey Bosa, I think he's going to expose him on Sunday. Dawson Knox is my last Bills to shock the world. And why? Well, because he is still a really good player, and Josh is still really a guy who relies upon him on a consistent basis. I was listening to Josh Allen talk to Andrew Whitworth and Ryan Fitzpatrick about who's going to emerge out of this Buffalo Bills roster this upcoming year, and he still made it a point to reference Dawson Knox and how good of a relationship that he and Josh have. So I'm still looking for him to make a play. Dawson Knox, if you guys want to go on PrizePicks and look for a guy to take to get in the end zone that's not James Cook, then maybe think about Dawson Knox here as somebody who Josh knows he can rely upon as a safety valve. And if Kincaid's not 100% because he's been banged up a little bit through the preseason and training camp as well, then look for Knox as one of Josh's go-to targets here early against Baltimore on Sunday. Who's a player that you guys think is going to shock the world? Name a player to watch in Week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. I'm trying to hear from the Mafia. Maybe I missed the name. Let me know down in the comment section. And you can hit me up on Twitter over as well. We can keep the conversation going at Tyler J. Smith, 2 H's because the name's common, but I am not. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel, youtube.com/Bills News. We'll be live for the Bills game on Sunday against the Ravens, so tune in for that. We'll be live a half hour before kickoff. We'll see you guys all then. And as always, let's go, Buffalo.